Hi, my name's Julie Jones. I've just finished a decorative pastry masterclass at the Fortnum and Mason Food and Drink Studio. I'm going to recreate what I taught in the class today, which involves some latticing with pastry. We're going to use the pasta cutter and to recreate kind of a basket filled with lots of flowers, and then I'll show you how to top the pie. Okay, so we have a pre-baked pastry shell filled with a beautiful fruit filling, and I've got this piece of pastry which is going to be the decorative pie lid. So what we do is we kind of build our decoration on top of this, and then we add that to the pie later. So I'm going to use the KitchenAid, a pasta roller, but I quite like to use it for pastry. One, it rolls your pastry nice and thin and it gets it nice consistent, and it cuts your strips perfectly, which is good for latticing, so you're not having to like hand slice them all. So there we go, we've got the pastry rolled through the plain roller, and I'm going to switch the attachment. I'm going to cut some strips, which is really cool, and I'm going to use this to make like a basket lattice. So laying your strips side by side from halfway down. You'll notice that there's no egg wash on here because you need to lift the strips up and down. You don't need to worry too much about the overhanging edge because we're going to trim that off. So I've just trimmed off the excess pastry just so it's easier to handle. We're going to start creating a lattice here. I'm doing a double weave lattice. So you're lifting 2 strips up, leaving 2, lift 2, leave 2, lift 2. You notice that I'm not like forcing that pastry right down because you don't want the pastry to crack or break. But what we're going to do is lay 2 strips now this way. So what I'm doing now is I'm lifting the alternate strips to the previous round. It does help if you've got cold hands, I have to say. If you haven't got cold hands, it's quite handy to have like a bowl of iced water so you can dip them into. So the next 2 layers of pastry are just going across the way and then return those strips that you've lifted up. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to neaten up this edge here. Gently, but not cutting through the pastry base. Just take 2 more strips of pastry and just twist. Just lay that across there. Again, you see I'm not actually using any egg wash to stick this down. Just trim those edges, but we do need it to be kind of overhanging. Now I'm going to create a handle. I also said don't worry about like little loose edges, or because you can always put a flower or some kind of decoration on it. Once we created our basket kind of shape, I've got lots of these cutters around, so using the plain cut pastry that had been through the plain roller, I'm just going to put some flowers on here, some leaves. So now it's time to transfer the pie lid to the pie, where everything becomes neat suddenly, and like the guests today were like, wow, I actually created that. But we need to like create a kind of a seal for the pastry. So what I'm doing is I'm just gently egg washing the exposed pastry of the base. Kind of acts like a glue, but just try and be careful not to get it on the tin, as it can create sticking. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do, it's quite cool in here, but if it wasn't, you would have to chill this pastry first so you could transfer it onto your pie. I'm just lining it up with the tin underneath, gently removing the paper. I've just misaligned that slightly, not that it matters too much, but we like things right. So now it's all about neatening it up. But this is why I was saying before, it doesn't matter if it's like got an overhanging edge because it will all come together in the end. So what I'm doing there, I'm using my thumb. I'm kind of using a downward and outward motion, which will help seal the top to the bottom. and the tin underneath is going to help cut away that pastry. And then before we know it, we're going to have a very neat looking pie. Slowly does it with pastry. I always say, like, patience with pastry is key. Don't try and rush anything. And then before we know it, we've got what kind of looks like a Fortnum and Mason's hamper.